Blah.
Hey, what's going on? All right, I don't know if it reads on my face during this interview, but I was utterly starstruck speaking with Linnea. I mean, you don't understand, man. I kind of gushed about it a little bit further into our conversation, but it's like she as Trash has been on my TV screen since I was 10 years old. I'm 38 now, you know what I mean? So for 28 years, I have been reveling in this performance that she did from 1985, the year that I was born, no less. It's so surreal when you realize that these characters that are on the screen are like actually portrayed by real living people who, for them, it was just, 6 weeks. But for you, it was this moment that was engraved in time forever that you could replay over and over and over again. Linnea's teamed up with Dragon Films, and they're doing a new Return of the Living Dead film in something called the Return of the Living Dead universe. And they're launching an Indiegogo campaign, which you're going to hear me talk about like 85 different times. But hey, I really want to support this project. I really hope it gets off the ground. We've gotten revamps and spin-offs and sequels to every conceivable franchise. But it's been years since we got anything Return of the Living Dead related. In fact, it's been 20 years since Return of the Living Dead Part 4 and 5 have come out. And I will say, of all the disgusting sequels that have come out to beloved franchises, there is nothing more bankrupt or unconscionable than Return of the Living Dead Part 4 and 5. So bad are those movies that the rights to them were auctioned off on eBay for $50,000 for whoever wanted them. So anything that involves the original cast doing something Return of the Living Dead-esque is going to be a wonderful welcome compared to the period on the end of the sentence that is Return of the Living Dead 4 and 5. We need to wipe the slate, people. And Linnea and Beverly Rudolph, Thom Mathews, Miguel A. Nuñez, sorry if I butchered your name, and composer Francis Haines, anybody else I might have left out, are coming back for Trash's Revenge. What is Trash's Revenge? Well, let's ask Linnea herself, because she's here to talk to me. All right, Jeff. Roll the interview.
Okay. First of all, I can't even tell you what an honor it is to meet you, or talk to you, see you, whatever. Just, you are the queen. You are the queen. I just had to say that.
Let me go get my crown.
This is so beyond awesome. Please allow me to gush for a moment before we begin.
Sure.
I started watching Return of the Living Dead when I was 10 years old on the Sci-Fi Channel. I taped half of it, the later half, and I must have worn that tape down. And I've seen Return of the Living Dead hundreds of times, as I'm sure you probably hear that like every, 5 minutes someone tells you that.
No.
But all I could say is you are one of the all-time iconic queens of the screen, of the B-movie screen, whatever you want to call it. And I just want you to know that film had such a deep, profound impact on me as a person. And I truly, deeply thank you for your contribution, your work, what you did.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. You made my day now. That's for sure.
Good. What exactly is Trash's Revenge, and how did it come about?
Okay, Trash's Revenge came about. Dragonflix got this idea that they were going to write something because they loved Return of the Living Dead. And this is not a sequel or anything like that, but they wrote their own version of like what Trash would be like, if she like evolved and aged and did all this stuff. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It's very much like Sunset Boulevard. Have you seen Sunset Boulevard?
I have not seen Sunset Boulevard, but I'm familiar.
God.
I'm familiar
Yes.
with the title. I'm familiar with
Okay.
that. I know it's an iconic Hollywood film. I've never seen it.
Yes, I love it. It's one of my favorites. That one and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I love those two films a lot. But my character plays a woman that after a while, the film industry's had it with me. I'm like old stuff. And I want to like come out again and I want to be famous and I'm vain and I want the fame and I want everything that goes with it. So I luckily kept 3 canisters from the original shipment and I have them in my basement. So I figure out a great way to get attention, and it's very gory and horrific, and it's just a great, I unleash the zombies.
That's amazing. You know, I think we've all been clamoring for anything Return of the Living Dead for a long, long time. And there's been such a, where every other movie has had some kind of resurgence or an update or some sort of
Yeah.
thing. And there's been nothing for Return of the Living Dead. And especially when so many of you are, kicking it and you're all friends and you're all, doing all these conventions and stuff. And it's like, why not get the team back together in some way, shape, or form? So I'm very glad to hear that this is happening.
I know, and none of us have been in a film together in 40 years. It'll be 40 years next year. So
Wow.
this is like, that's why we wanted to do this now, because it'll be a great way to spend the 40th anniversary.
Perfect. It really is
Yes.
perfect. Truly. Let me ask you this question, and this is an imaginative question.
Okay.
What do you think who was the Tar Man before he became the Tar Man? Have you ever wondered that? Who do you think the Tar Man was?
The IRS guy, an IRS guy.
Really?
Yeah, because he comes at you.
Because they're always coming
They
to
always
get you.
do. Yeah, and they're gooey and awful, and yes,
They want their piece. How about this
they
question?
want their piece.
Here's another question for you. Who is most responsible and liable for what happens in the movie Return of the Living Dead, in your opinion? Who do you think holds the most responsibility?
I think James Karen.
Oh, okay.
I
Interesting.
think he goes downstairs. Well, I mean, it's the army, of course.
I think it's the army. I think it's the army.
The army. I mean, James Karen was just showing off and, showing the kid around and stuff like that. But it's the army.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
always is.
ultimately, it's the army. But yes, if it wasn't for Frank, if it wasn't for James Karen, then none of this would have happened. Although I guess it was an inevitability at
Yes.
some point that those canisters were going to leak, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, they were getting pretty weak, and the army should have managed that better.
Did I know how sometimes actors and actresses, they sort of they fill in their own backstory for their character, whether the director or the writer gives them that information or not, that you guys as artists sort of fill in, gaps in your mind as to what a character's background is. Did you do anything like that for Trash?
No, I don't do that.
Okay. Okay. That's
I mean, I've seen people go to these big, for little tiny movies. I mean, that's great. It gives them something to work with, but I just can't do it. The classes I went to, you just go off of what someone else is doing.
Right. You're feeding off of the other.
Reacting. Yes. And, I always found that if you went into the backstory and all this, it's just too convoluted.
Okay. Fair enough. So when you were doing that boot camp, when you guys had some time to rehearse before you even started shooting, that was really beneficial in terms of what you're talking about, the back and the back and forth.
Yes, it was very beneficial. We were lucky we had a couple weeks to rehearse.
Do you remember, now this is something I always wondered about Dan O'Bannon, who, again, just this is his first film that he's directing, and he does a bunch of things that had me scratching my head, but also like in awe of, like, you know, thinking that he's brilliant. A lot of the shots of you guys together
Mhm.
are all together. There's no coverage, or at least they didn't use any
Right.
coverage. It's just like the
Yeah.
6 of you in a single shot. And I always wondered in my head, is like, is that him sort of locking in? Because you can't, if you shoot everything in a master shot, then nobody can mess with your edit, right? Because it's like you either take this or you don't take this.
Oh,
Like,
right.
were you guys like, what do you recall any particular reason why a lot of that stuff is like all of you together in the frame, or is it just because you all rehearsed together in that time? What do you think of that?
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
I don't know. I never thought of that, but it's probably because everybody was like bothering him to get it done so fast. That's what I thought. But knowing him, it could be because he didn't want anybody to mess with it. So probably a little bit of both. You
Little bit
know,
of both.
oh, we can't get coverage because they're screaming at us to, you know, get this done, and you know.
But I mean, some of the like the oh, I'm in, you know, I've, like I said, I've watched this film hundreds of times. I've listened to the commentaries, and I'm always trying to look for something new in the movie. I don't know what it is about the movie that makes it so endlessly rewatchable, even just from like the idea of like how it's a story that really every scene feeds on the previous scene, and it keeps building and building and building until it's, you know, this unattendable thing. What do? Blow everybody up? Because what else are you gonna do, right? Like,
Exactly.
you can't do anything
Exactly.
except
Things
blow
have
everybody up.
gone way awry, and it's like there's no going back.
At the very end, when things do blow up, there is a static shot, and I'm asking you to reach back 40 years. I know I'm asking you to reach back 40 years for a lot of the stuff that I'm asking. There's a shot of you standing with some of your fellow zombies, and you're looking
Yes.
up as the bomb is coming down. I've always, again, as somebody obsessed with this movie and seeing stills from things that I don't see in the movie, or like there's no anything else of it, I always wondered what that still frame is from. What was that from? Some scene that they just took that single frame, or they had you
No.
stand like that?
No, they made me up and had me stand like that for a 2-second scene. Yes.
Wow.
I remember it was like, oh no, I got to go through makeup for like just standing there, because I
Yeah.
hated the makeup effects, the prosthetics and stuff.
Yes,
But
well,
it's like that was before people, like most people have like stunt zombies or whatever. I
Sure.
was like in the makeup all the time.
yeah, you particularly went through a lot, as I'm
Yes.
well aware of the whole rigmarole.
Right.
There, that's really interesting. Okay, here's another question. Again, I'm just trying to think of some things that no one has been able. I've spoken to William Stout. I've spoken to Miguel. I've spoken
wow.
to John Penny, who was an assistant editor on the movie. Nobody can give me an answer, who also wrote Return of the Living Dead 3, but he was the assistant editor on the first movie.
Uh-huh.
No one can give me this answer. And I asked Miguel about this. The scene right before, you know, oh, Trash is taking off her clothes again. You and Spider, Trash and Spider are sitting by the tombstones, and you're going through your famous monologue about, you know, whatever fantasy.
About
There
being
are
killed.
about being
Yes.
killed. Do you ever fantasize? There are mushrooms in the foreground of that
Oh
shot.
God, yes.
And nobody like, so I was like Miguel seemed to be like oblivious that those were, I was like, what are those? And we like kind of figured out they were mushrooms. Do you remember anything about these mushrooms or why they were there or like any sort of
Oh
fuss over
yeah.
them?
I remember Dan was obsessed with these mushrooms. He was like, we're gonna do this big scene, and he's like placing them exactly how he wanted them, and it was crazy. And I'm wondering if that was like a psychedelic type thing on it
That
because the
is
mushrooms.
sure, sure. That's very interesting. Because for the longest time, those were always those, they're out of focus. They're so in
Yeah.
the foreground. And one day I'm watching the movie, like I do, and I'm just going, what the hell is that? And I was like, those are mushrooms. So then I asked Miguel, and he's like, those are what? I was like, he wasn't even really aware of what they were. So no, you finally have I've come one step closer to knowing more about these mush. I asked William Stout, who's the production designer. He was like, I don't remember. I don't recall that at
Oh,
all.
I remember that. I remember him. He was like
That's
obsessed
too
with the
funny.
mushrooms and placing them in certain places. And he was obsessed with the skull patch. He wanted it on my crotch. Those were
Right.
the two things for that scene he wanted done.
Oh,
And
you mean in the outfit, the trash outfit,
in
there
the
was a
outfit, yes,
skull.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. Right. Wow. Um, And there were several attempts before they made the two sequels. There were some other attempts to make Return of the Living Dead sequels. Were you attached to any of those, or were not really involved in
No,
any way?
no, I
No.
wasn't.
Mm.
I wasn't.
Well, we're finally getting one. And right now, just to quickly highlight before we continue, there's an Indiegogo campaign, and the link will be down in the description of this video. And it's your chance to help support the creation of a brand new Return of the Living Dead film that brings back many of the original stars. You have the guy who did the original Trioxin 245 Trioxin theme is composing, and some of that music. Are you familiar? You're familiar with the band Mr. Monster?
Yes.
Yes, Jason, who R.I.P. I was just with the bass player the other day. We were
Oh,
talking. We were talking. They have a song called Tina and Freddie, which is an ode to Return of the Living Dead, and it has some of that theme is in that as well. So
oh, that's great. That's great. I love
you
that.
guys should try it. You should. I don't. Whoever's directing this movie should try and get a hold of that song because that's a good song for that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, at some point should look into that. I'll email
Okay,
you
that
if
would be
you're
great.
legitimately
Email it
interested.
me.
I
Yes,
will.
I am.
I
I am
will.
interested because
Okay.
I'm producing also. Beverly and I are producing, and so I have some input.
Okay. Well, listen, Jason's not around anymore, but he was. I know Beverly knew Jason as well. That you guys spent some time with him, and there's a place for maybe there's a place somewhere for Mr. Monster 245 Trioxin Go song, Tina and Freddie. So
I would love that. That would fit it really well. Even though it's not a sequel,
right, of
it,
course, of course.
it's an entity all of its
A,
own.
a sort of you know what I think maybe from what you've told me, the best way to categorize this is that
Mhm.
it is sort of a spiritual companion, to Return of Living Dead that uses a lot of the Return of Living Dead DNA, but trying to do something unique and fresh and different.
Yes, I like that.
Okay, that
I like
works.
that.
So are
Good,
you?
good thought.
So the canisters that you've held on to, I mean, without revealing too much, so there
Mhm.
there have to be some tar men in those canisters, I would imagine.
I'm not sure if they're Tarman or if they're just zombies.
Okay,
Maybe a new kind of zombie.
a new kind of zombie. That
Yeah,
works. That
yeah.
works. What are some other roles that besides Trash in Return of the Living Dead that you feel incredibly fond about all this time later?
Oh, um, Night of the Demons turned out good.
Yes, that's a
Even
good one.
though I did not like the character, I read that dialogue and I was just like cringing. I'm like, how am I going to say this? I'm like, I've got to just like say it about the worst way possible for it to work even,
Right.
so I was just like an obsessed with myself girl. And Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, I'm really proud of.
Great movie. Have it sitting
Yes.
right over there. That's a good
Yes,
one.
I love that one.
That's fun.
But those are I did one with Don Calfa in it called Treasure of the Moon Goddess, and it's so hard to find, but it's really
Ooh.
fun. It's not horror, but it's fun. We went to Mexico to film it. We went to the Philippines. We were all over the place. It was crazy.
I have to tell you, and that's the thing that I love all of your performances in Return of the Living Dead. Do not get me wrong.
Okay.
But the performances that I always zero in on, like zero in on with laser focus when I watch that movie, are Don Calfa, James Karen, and
Yes.
Clu Gulager.
Oh
And-
my God, they're so good.
Oh, they are. I mean, this is like it's so funny. It's almost criminal that people don't talk about these laser sharp performances. What they do for that movie, they treat things that are so utterly ridiculous with such serious conviction.
Yes.
Don Calfa, like the way, and it's like you have to be a certain kind of actor with a certain kind of mentality to take material that most other people would think is just pulp schlock and
Yep.
treat it with gravitas and conviction. And because of that, like a guy like Don Calfa takes that movie to another level. And I'm in awe. And it's sad that all three of them are not with us anymore, but they
I
are
know.
immortalized with.
They are. Now, Don did go into the backstory and everything. I mean, he really went into the backstory and had to have a special gun and
Yeah,
had to have like
his backstory is amazing. It's good.
all this Ava Braun picture in the background. That's what's
music.
good about Return. There's so many little Easter eggs there.
So much stuff. And that's also a testament to the genius of William Stout, who,
Yes.
like that he put the amount of detail. And I'll tell you, there's a story in the book, in the complete history of Return of the Living Dead, where they talked about how they went to a real like morgue or crematorium or something.
Yes, they did.
And he said, and I still can't believe this. Like, I mean, I guess, listen, that this is the story that they tell. It must, this is their truth as they heard it, but it's very hard to believe that a guy came running out to tell them that I won't say it on air, but unmentionable things were happening to behind the scenes in this place. And I'm just going, my God, like what a harrowing sort of experience. Here you are trying to research what you're going to do. And you hear these weird kind of things.
Stories. Yeah.
Very
It's
weird.
like but you hear about that on the news that happens a lot. And it's like so creepy.
Yeah.
It makes you not want to die.
A little bit, not gonna lie,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, tell me about it looks like you have some doggies there. What about your dogs?
I have a sanctuary. I rescue dogs and cats and goats, and I place them or I become a failure and I keep them. I have 11 dogs. I don't know which ones you can see.
I see a beautiful looking husky on the bed, it looks like. Hi,
Yes.
Husky. Hi, Husky.
That's
The husky's
Zora.
name. Zora?
And I've got a Doberman here. I've got a Border Collie. I've got
Oh.
a mix of some kind. I've got
I
a
love Border
Rottweiler. I've
Collies,
got
are my
a
favorite.
cattle dog
I love Border
and
Collies.
Aussies.
Beautiful.
Oh, they're smart. They're
So smart.
dogs.
I had a Border Collie Jack Russell Terrier named Hallie. Yeah, crazy. I love how you're shocked because you put the mix together in your mind. She was the size of a terrier, but she had all the markings of a collie, and she was so lightning smart. And she lived for 15 and a half years, and she was a part of our family, and we loved her. And dogs are not pets, dogs are family. I mean, all
Yes,
pets are family in general, but dogs are
yes,
family, you know, and,
they are.
oh, I think that's amazing work that you do. That's
Oh, well,
fantastic.
thank you. I placed a few of them recently, and I just got one out of the shelter that was another husky that was going to be killed the day she was going to be killed. So,
Amazing.
and Linda Blair is got her, Linda Blair World Heart Fund. I mean, she's got 200 dogs.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube casualty for $6.66. The YouTube casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you! 66 cents.
You know what? Would you additionally, when we get off here, would you put a link, send me the link to do you have a link to is there like a website for your sanctuary?
It's on my regular website, the
Okay, I'll put that.
Linnea-Quigley.com. Yeah.
We're going to put that down in the description. We'll put all that stuff down in the description, folks. So again, just to reiterate, as we wind down here, it got an Indiegogo campaign. The link will be down in the description, as well as we'll put the website, and as well as if you want to learn more about the work, the animal work that is being done here, clearly, and it's wonderful. I think that's wonderful, and truly,
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really, really great.
I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it. All my life, I wanted to save animals as a little kid, and I wanted to have as many dogs as I wanted, and all this, and it's like finally kind of happening.
You know who does that too?
It drives me nuts, but
I'm sure
it's good. Yes,
I'm sure. Are you familiar? So do you know who Burt Ward is? Of course you know.
Of course, yes, I've worked with him. Yes.
Oh, you have? Oh, Gentle. Yes. So you know Gentle Giants.
Yes, I do.
So I do. So that food's like legit, right? Like that's like
it's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, that it like I was reading a lot about it. I was telling my brother has a dog that's getting up there in years, and I said, like you should look into this Gentle Giants food. It might be good for the diet because diet is the key to longevity for dogs in so many ways, right? So
pedigree is the worst.
Pedigree is the worst.
One
That's
of the
what
worst.
Bert says.
Yeah.
That's what Bert says. And Bert cares. Bert really cares for those dogs too, or cares about.
Oh, he really does. Him and his wife Tracy are so sweet.
Truly, truly. Well, you were also in a movie called The Guyver, which I recently acquired.
Yes.
I don't know to what extent. I've never watched it. I bought it because I love Screaming Mad George,
Oh
and
yeah.
I love Brian Usna, of course, and
And
I've
Steve
never seen it.
Wang. Yeah.
Right. And I've never seen it, but I know that you were in it, and I just wanted to know anything that you remember about making that movie at all, or
I
being on
remember
that film.
it was just really fun because I basically got to play a parody of myself, of me being an actress, and I'm screaming, and this alien jumps into my scene and I get pissed off about it. And it's just a fun little cameo that I'm doing in it.
Um, I need to also know. So one day we watched Return of the Living Dead. We did a commentary, and then afterwards, that the bass player, that same bass player from Mr. Monster, that band I was talking about, that was in the band with Jason, he was with me, and we started watching your horror workout tape.
Yes, of course.
How did this horror workout tape come to be? Like, why? Like, how did, like, what, who decided on a workout tape particularly? Is it because you were into fitness? Like, what is the deal with the horror workout tape? Explain this.
Well, I was into fitness. I mean, when I moved to LA, I started working at Jack LaLanne's health spa, you
Wow.
know, teaching women to, I mean, this was back when they had those machines that rolled and women would get on them thinking that was like rolling off the fat and stuff.
Yeah, you mean the
Yes,
yeah.
they had those. Oh,
Strange,
and,
very strange.
and very weird. And so I was on the set of Murder Weapon that David Dakota was directing, and Ken Hall, who directed the horror workout and wrote it, was there. And I was doing this scene where I was lifting a sledgehammer, and coming down on someone's head, and they were doing like close-ups of it and far away things of just my arms and the hammer coming down. And so it was pretty heavy, and so I got off set, and Ken Hall said that was really a workout, and I said, yeah, it was. And all of a sudden we like had these light bulbs go off in our head and said, everybody's making a fitness video. Why don't we do something? And he's a good
Amazing.
writer. He's a really good writer and director. And so within, like, I think it was a week or two, we were on set for 2 days doing this. I mean, it was like working our asses off.
Wow. So it was a 2-day shoot for that whole thing.
2 days in 2 different locations.
That, there's only one other guy with that record, and that's Roger Corman, rest in peace, with Little Shop of Horrors. The original Little Shop of Horrors was shot in 2 days.
Was it?
Yes.
I did not know that. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Wow.
So if at some point in time, however it may happen, you decide that you're watching Little Shop of Horrors, the original, in black and white, just know that when you're watching it, that movie was made in 2 days. And you'll be like,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to have to watch it again to get the whole scope of that.
Now, you also were on a video for the Ramones. You were in the
Yep.
substitute video.
Yes,
What
I
was
was.
okay? So, what was it like working with? I'm a huge Ramones fan. What was it like working with the Ramones? What do you remember about them, if you remember anything at all?
Oh, I remember that they were just so down to earth. And we went to, where was it? This cafe on Sunset with Johnny. And he was so down to earth. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, he's like this big star, of rock and roll. And I was like, he was just so great and so down to earth.
That's great. That's great. And that's a great video too. That's a really
It
great
is.
video. I really,
Tom
really dig
Renoni
that.
was a good director.
Oh, he directed that.
He directed that. Unfortunately, he's passed. He was crazy, but good crazy.
What when you say crazy, what was it about him that made him crazy particularly?
Eccentric, being eccentric. And everywhere he went, there was a fight that happened. He was a Texas boy.
Okay.
Wild Texas boy, if that explains stuff.
Actually, I think that That's like in the same way that if someone's like, oh yeah, they're from Florida,
Yes.
right? Right. A little bit, a little bit. Now,
Yes.
now Dan O'Bannon was also, from all things that I've read, because I did never met or knew Dan O'Bannon, but from everything that I've read, and I read his book, his screenwriting book, and I read the complete history, he was also eccentric. He was an eccentric guy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
What do you think contributed to his eccentricity? Was it just, is that where, do you think that was also like the source of maybe where some of his genius aspects came in?
I do. I think so. He didn't really have a filter on things. He just like made things happen and wrote it down. I think that was the whole thing. And he didn't care.
Hmm.
I mean, he didn't care what people thought.
Right.
He was doing what he felt was creative.
Right. It's a, I know I've seen his other movie that he directed. It's a crime. And I know that he had health issues and there were things that made it
Yeah.
kind of hard for him not to be able to. But it is a crime that there are not more Dan O'Bannon movies in the world. He
Oh,
should
I
have.
know it. I know it. He got pegged as being hard to work
Sure.
with or something
Sure.
like that. But I'm sure James Cameron is,
Yeah. I mean,
you know?
that's part of being the thing about genius is their intelligence doesn't always equate to empathy and compassion. And so when they
Right.
interact with other human beings, they can be abrasive and rough and mean or uncaring or come off that way because their brain is just functioning in a different way than, say,
Yes.
someone, right? Like on some
Yes.
level. That doesn't excuse bad behavior or
Right.
mean behavior, but it does kind of explain why maybe it happens sometimes, I think. A little bit.
Exactly.
A little bit.
Exactly. I think more creative people are like that. Yes.
Before we get out of here, I want to again just let everybody know that there is a campaign, if you're just joining us, for a brand new spiritual companion to Return of the Living Dead called Trash's Revenge. It's got an Indiegogo campaign, and the link is down in the description. And, I know a lot of people on my channel, we all love Return of the Living Dead. Well, here's something Return of the Living Dead adjacent that is coming out. It's going to be really friggin' cool. It's got all the people from Return of the Living Dead in it. This is a project that you absolutely want to make sure that you support. And before we let our wonderful Scream Queen go, I have to ask you about one last film that you were in, a very small role, whatever you remember about this, because I find this film blew me away. This is an example of a movie where, movies can be written several times, as I'm sure you're aware with your seasoned career and all the films that you've been in. Movies can be written and rewritten multiple times, from the script to in production. Things change again in editing, right? And then there's one last time where I think changes are made, but not to the movie itself, but the way that the movie is perceived, and that is the marketing. Sometimes,
Oh, yes.
right? Like the way the marketing changes how we perceive a movie. A horror gets marketed as a comedy. A comedy gets marketed as a horror film. And we walk out, our expectations are let down or whatever can sort of happen. I think that was the case with this film, and it's called Dead Heat, starring Joe Piscopo, and Treat Williams, and Vincent Price. And this film, which I avoided like the plague because I always thought it was a buddy cop comedy. I was like, whatever.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. But then one day I watch, I do 31 days of horror movies every year on the channel. One day I'm watching Dead Heat for the first time, and I'm going, holy moly, this isn't a buddy cop comedy. This is like a weird John Carpenter-esque, like horror action buddy cop comedy with Vincent Price and all these people. What do you remember about that? Your time on set for that. What do you remember about that movie when they were making it? Did it feel like any of those things that I just said, or what was the vibe?
The vibe was like, for me, it was like, oh my God, Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo are in it. big names, I was just like, this is a big production. And it seemed like a big production to me when I was on set. And it seemed like they cut a lot of scenes that I saw filmed. They cut my scene.
Oh,
it's in the behind the scenes stuff now.
Okay.
But it was just really a cool set. And I thought it was a buddy cop film too, from my just brief, time on set.
Sure. That's crazy. That is really crazy. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time here and like chatting with me for a few minutes. And again, I can't tell you, it is so, it really is. It's such an honor for me to speak with you because I've said this to other actors who I've spoken to, it's easy. Like if you see someone who has, I don't know, has been in a million, whatever kind of movies and this, that, and the other, and they've been all over the place and you go, wow, yeah, that's that movie star. But then there are people also, other actors who embody characters. Like you forget that these are actors behind these roles and that they are real people who are just like, who are here. And like, so when you see them and you speak to them, it's like the most surreal thing in the world.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it's it's so like meeting you is so larger than life for me because I mean, I saw you so much on my TV screen and now here I am talking to you. It's very surreal.
I know what you mean. Yes. Cause I've had that experience too with like John Heder, Napoleon Dynamite. I was like,
really?
Oh my God. I love that film.
That's what did it for you, was seeing John Heder.
Oh yeah. I was like,
it's so interesting.
And I remember when I was like 11, I met, what's his name? Ben Cartwright was his name in the series, but what was his name? I can't remember his name now.
Hold on. Don't worry. I got it right here. Hold on. Wait 1 second. Ben Cartwright, you said?
Yeah, he was on Wagon Train or something like that.
Bonanza. Okay. Yeah, I got him right here. I'm looking at it right here. Benjamin Ben Cartwright is one of the main protagonists. Oh, okay. And the actor's name was ... Wait, does it not tell you what the actor's name was?
Oh, no.
Oh, Lauren Green.
Yes. I met him at a fair and I was just like, wow. He was like the big celebrity at the fair in Iowa. It was like, this was like really amazing to me.
Because it's like that role that he embodied in the same way the role that you embodied, it becomes a mythology that lives outside of you and becomes almost larger than life. And so like every time like that, I was watching it on my screen. I'm like, this is not a person. This is trash. Right. But like, you're a person, like you're not like, you are an actress portraying trash. So it's so surreal. It's just like a really weird, I mean, you understand. I already explained that.
I do. It is really
amazing.
Weird.
Amazing. Truly. Thank you again. Thank you for this.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So again, one last time, link is down in the description, everybody. Go check out the Indiegogo. Yes, indeed.
What are you pointing at, you dirty man?
I don't know. Oh, hey, what do you think this is? A costume? This is a way of life.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man. Was that awesome or was that awesome? That was friggin' awesome. By the way, I have to tell you, it was so exhilarating to hear Linnea talk about the mushrooms because, again, the mushrooms, they've been this mystery for so long. And to hear that Dan O'Bannon was fussing over them, that it was a very specific detail that Dan O'Bannon wanted for the movie, for that scene specifically, and went to such great extent to mess around with these mushrooms, and the fact that Linnea can remember 38 years later that this occurred is just the icing on the cake for me. We're a minutia. We do a lot of minutia here, and I revel in that minutia. That was some good minutia. Well, guess what? Somewhere on my hard drives, recently rediscovered, are interviews with both Miguel A. Nuñez, sorry for butchering your name, buddy, as well as Brian Usna and John Penny. Brian Usna directed Return of the Living Dead Part 3, and John Penny wrote Return of the Living Dead Part 3, as well as was the assistant editor on the original Return of the Living Dead. And I have these interviews that need to be processed, and they are going straight out to the YouTube members as well as the Patreon members first and foremost. So if you want to see those interviews, and I'll tell you, the Brian Usna one is like 3 hours friggin' long. I think John Penny is like 90 minutes, and I think Miguel is 90 minutes too. So that's hours and hours and hours of things. This is a very echoey space, so if I suddenly sound echoey, that is why. Really good incentive for you to sign up and become a YouTube member or a Patreon member here at the Frumess channel. Don't hesitate, sign up today, and we will see you next time.